Hi, I'm Jake, a producer based in Buckinghamshire. I produced the song Solstice Sun for Nick Byrne and Tom Symmonds. So I've been working with Nick for a few years, but he brought this song to me early in the year and asked if I could help produce it. He mentioned that it was a collaboration with himself and Tom, which they had started work on in lockdown, I believe. So it goes back a little way. When he sent me the demo, it already had quite a strong vision.
We walked all along the shoreline, curled up together till the fire burned down.
He'd mentioned to me that he'd formed a live band and he wanted to start transitioning into incorporating his band into his recorded music. With Houses and Summer Rain, which are the other two songs I produced for Nick, they were predominantly acoustic based, but they did have sort of this sonic cinematic soundscape that Nick likes to have in his music. But this time with Solstice Sun, it was about combining those elements as well as some of the electronic elements and lo-fi elements that Tom had provided and mixing in his live band. It was a bit of a challenge to kind of marry the two, the more electronic sounding demo with the live version of the track. My goal was to kind of give it one whole sonic identity. So we decided to lay down Nick's parts first and use what was already there from the demo and then bring the band in later. Nick also recorded a charango on this song, which is a Chilean guitar, which is from his heritage, which is the first time I've ever recorded one of those, and sort of added, that kind of global sound, cinematic sound that Nick is looking for. So there's quite a lot going on in this song. So one of the things we achieved from Nick's previous work was to incorporate organic sounds with sort of soft synths and strings and sort of plucked instruments. With this, we kind of took it one step further and we still used those, but we also had Nick's friend record Violin and we mixed those with synth sounds basically. Another thing that's kind of holds this whole world together that Nick's created is kind of a shimmer effect, which goes on the guitar and a few other synth elements. And it just kind of gives it a bed to sit on, which is kind of ethereal and kind of otherworldly, which I think really helps give the song an identity. So coming back to adding the band at the end, the one challenging thing when you do that is it kind of changes the foundation of everything. Now this song is a bit of a journey, so it starts more in a electronic space and then moves into a more band orientated ending. Although at the end it does feature both electronic and organic drums and bass. So I didn't want to make the song feel like it was two halves. I wanted to feel like a progressive journey throughout the song. I intentionally didn't want to make it become a version which is just the live version. And me and Nick talked about that. We wanted to retain sort of its sonic identity rather than just make a recreation of the live sound. I think where Nick's headed, there'll be like a more true representation of that band sound in other songs. But this one was more about a transition and keeping true to what Tom had provided for the song. So it was really important not to kind of just completely get rid of all that. And to help it all come together as one and make what you know now as Solstice Sun. So one of the challenging things when you're incorporating electronic samples with live drums is phasing. So you have to make sure everything's in phase, otherwise it will sound like, you'll get kind of a flam sound, or you'll get a thin sounding snare drum or kick drum. So it was a bit of a balancing act between, I wanted to keep the feel of the drummer because he kind of plays with feel, and I didn't want to completely quantize it to the point where it's just robotic. So the samples had to be nudged to the feel of the drums, which came right at the end. So it was quite tricky. We kind of built the whole song around what was kind of to grid, and then at the end had to like shift things. In hindsight, I maybe wouldn't have done it like that. But yeah, also the other challenging thing was, there's quite a lot of low end in the kick drum and also the sub bass that's going on. And the bass guitar also had quite a bit of sub. So it's really about carving out specific frequencies to make sure that they all had room, which was quite challenging. So it had like this thick, big low end. And then you've got a lot of these picky kind of plucky instruments with Nick's palm muting and arpeggiated guitar, as well as the charango. So yeah, it was a little bit challenging in terms of making sure that the whole spectrum was covered without being too much of a heavy bottom and a thin top end. I think in the end we got there. But yeah, it did throw up a few hiccups and did take quite a lot of processing, a lot of multi-band to help with those different frequencies that were popping out and just to kind of hold them all together. Really happy with how it came out, and I'm really excited to work on Nick's next songs. I think we're going to create something even better. And my favorite thing to do is to help realize an artist's vision. I think we got there with Nick. It did take quite a few mixed revisions, but that's okay. As long as we get there and the artist is happy, that's all I'm looking for. This has been Jake from Egypt Lane Studios. Thank you for listening. If you want to have a chat about realizing your potential and your music, send me a DM and we'll have a conversation. This is my studio, Egypt Lane Studios, where basically I create most of my music, and I'd love to have you down.